I was thinking too that when we could talk about, I have a little bit that I want to say about our last video that we haven't put out yet, that eventually we will. And
did you say that girl's name in the?
Yeah, I said that was the first time I said names, first and last name.
She's a psycho, by the way. I hadn't told you this, but so you reached out to me and told me to take it down.
I didn't even tell you to take it down. You just did it. I was just wanted to talk to you.
Okay, but you texted me, and that's right. And you told me a little bit about
that
something was going on, suing you or whatever.
Yeah.
So a day later, I get a DM from her, and she was basically being a bitch, in my opinion. But I was decent, because I didn't remember any names, and I wasn't going to go back and listen to it right then. So, but based on what you had said, I'd planned to take it down anyway. Until we talked, and then I get that DM, so I take it down, and I have a VA that does all this, and like 4 days later, she messages me again, and it's a psycho, because my VA went to upload a different video, and he didn't see it, so he thought he didn't put it up, and so he didn't reach out to me or anything and put it back up. So she thought I was just bullshitting her, and so she was a psycho about it. So I just said,
because your VA accidentally reposted that same video.
Yeah,
another one. How long was it up for?
A day or two. So I pulled it down, like you had mentioned something about getting suing. Planned to pull it down. I think I did pull it before I got her message, but it was the same day. I don't know, hours apart, and then, so I told her, hey, I already pulled it down. And so then she seemed fine, but the way she just approached it was just, she was coming at me like she's mightier than now. And I was like, I'm not going to put up with that bullshit. And, and then a few days passes, 4 or 5 days, and she messaged me again going off like I'm, some fake bullshit person that, I'm like, wait a minute. So I explained what happened, and said, first of all, you should ask me a question, because I explained to you that I had no problem. I'll take the damn thing down, and anyways, she was a total bitch. I ended up just blocking her because, she came back and messaged again. I was like, I don't waste my time with this crap, she seemed to have, to me, I felt like she's got a screw loose somewhere.
Yeah. I think she's serpent seed. There's some, I wouldn't be surprised if she's a shapeshifter or something. There's something off with her.
She definitely seemed off to me. Like I just didn't want to deal with her.
Yeah, she's a handler. She's a reprogrammer kind of therapist, and she passed. Well, I guess. Well, I don't know if you even remember from the video, if you ever went back and watched the whole thing, what I had said about her, but she passed a book to my brother through me. And I actually do have a video of her like admitting that she knows a bunch of people in my family's bloodline who my brother gave her a list of to see if they were in that. Remember that shed I was talking about that the Mormons have all the names hidden in?
Yeah.
My brother came and had her make a list. And then a couple months later, she found the list and sent me a Marco Polo. And after everything that happened, like 2 years later, when I finally got my Marco Polo back up, that video was still there and I recorded it. So I have a Marco Polo of her admitting to me, reading this whole list. So when she wrote me, she's like,
That's awesome.
At first, I think she was trying to just be like, oh, I saw your interview and reach out. But after.
That's weird she saw it.
Once she heard her name, her messages changed. I think she was texting me through the whole thing and I didn't see it until later. And she had blocked me a while back because I actually did confront her. I was like, oh, I know who you are. I know that you're, just because once she told me that she knew the names on that list, I was like, oh, okay. Now I know why you know so many victims. And if there's a Mormon that's ever written a book or been a victim, she knows them. She's best friends with them. I have 2 videos of her, and after she threatened to sue me, saying, she said, there's no list of names. What are you talking about?
Oh gosh.
And I was like, really? I just responded with the video. I sent it to her of her herself saying, oh my gosh, was this you that gave me this list of names? I grew up with all these people. They were all in my family's, like,
Jeez.
because she grew up in Syracuse and I grew up in Layton, and her family owned. Yeah.
Is she really? Shit. No of them. I know about
her dad.
A lot of stuff with the jazz guys. So we got them their deals when they would advertise for our stuff. But
I'm sure her parents have to be into dark stuff. I think they're a serpent seed. I think they're probably shape-shifting Nephilim family seed. Like, jeez. I mean, that's my guess. I can't say for sure on that, which but just because they're so wealthy, and the fact that she knows all of these people, and she definitely has the Nephilim eyes, huge eyes, like, and I'm surprised you didn't notice on her name. Her name's when she messages you, and pick up on so her family sold that, and she has a massive inheritance, and she's
if I remember
a lot of money
Berkshire Hathaway bought him out, if I remember right. Warren Buffett.
Well, and the whole thing with, what was the furniture company? Something Wayfair. Wayfair.
Yeah.
That hit me. That there was another family that I knew was high in Scottish Rite Freemasonry in the same cult family bloodline group that I grew up in. And they also owned a furniture company. And it just hit me like they're trafficking children in the furniture.
Exactly.
That's why they run these big, huge furniture companies. And then her parents made so much flipping money. And then she lives directly across the street from and I think I might have talked about this in the, and that's why she was such a bitch, because she knows it's all true, everything I said.
Yeah, you wouldn't freak out and do that if you.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that. So, but there's the Newport Temple, and I went down there and anointed the land and did a whole bunch of like prayer on it. And they're always aligned with churches and like underground tunnels. There's clearly a big ravine, clearly water tunnels, and where that temple is, you go right across. If you were to go get in the tunnels and go underground and go straight across the street, it'd be a 5-minute walk to her house. Wow. to the Mormon temple. And I went and drove through that neighborhood one night, and it hit me like, I think they built this temple here so that all these wealthy families, who are these bloodline families, are dealing with trafficking stuff. And so she knows. She did an interview supposedly with, never aired. I never could find it. And she was always just knowing all the big people. But then God sent her in to teach me, because she's the one who introduced me to SRA. I knew nothing about it until her.
No kidding.
So that's what he does. He always sends the serpents to me to teach me everything and give me all their insider scoops, and then go out and expose them later.
That's crazy.
I won't say her name again, just because I don't need to play with her. I would have no problem saying her first name, because I have two in my life. The lady who got me into polyamory and ran that little cult, her name was also. But just to, I can talk about her without saying her name, and then we can say anything we want. So
all right, let's do it. Hey folks, welcome back to Truth Talk with Steve. Today I've got a special guest, Teresa, who's been heavily involved in a lot of the same in the religion that I grew up in. She also was born and raised in the Mormon Church, and she's got a lot of experience and a lot of information that I feel is important to talk about. And so, welcome back to the show, Teresa. How you doing today?
Good, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You were obviously grew up and were born into a family that had some questionable things going on that, you kind of weren't too familiar with for a long, long time, but maybe give us a little backstory on kind of what went on and, what you ended up realizing was happening.
Yeah. So I was born into a Mormon elite Luciferian bloodline unknowingly. I was deemed expendable, which I explain as just not useful to their system. I didn't have the gifts or abilities that they would want in their system in order to serve, the beast, which I take as a compliment, because to me that just means they could see that I wouldn't go along with that, and I would have thought
in a lot of the elite families, at least from what I've read and stuff, there is often a sacrifice of some sort, their own child. Is there stuff like that in the LDS quote Church of Satan as well?
Absolutely. I think they often do it a lot more through witchcraft. I believe my nephew, who died the last few years, was sacrificed because he came to get his hair cut and he seemed very desperate, and there was some just strange stuff going on. And that was really what led me to end up, when I started asking questions about his death and asking my family why, when his autopsy came back, why there wasn't like an investigation being done, or nobody seemed to be asking any questions. All of the events surrounding that just made it very suspicious. And I know also I had a miscarriage that my ex-husband did some sorcery through they'll sacrifice. So because I'm not a willing participant, and because I'm not an active participant in their cult activities, because I was expendable, then I was married to a handler. So gotcha. I was in a unknown arranged marriage. And then there was definitely a sacrifice that was just a few weeks into a pregnancy. But, everything that's been revealed to me has been through experiences in my life, Freudian slips on my family's half or part, and claims that my sister has made, who is involved and does know things, who's very DID. And a lot of things she's told me that just weren't sinking in for years because they were doing programming, mind control over me. But I've never been able to take pharmaceuticals. I throw up immediately. And so I think that's another reason they couldn't put me in the system. That was a gift from God, because I couldn't be drugged. And so they had to use magic to kind of keep me blinded. But when I did a sovereignty prayer and declaration renouncing my bloodline curses one night, I just kind of scribbled one out. The next day I woke up and everything just kind of flooded in, and Holy Spirit started showing me everything. And ever since then, like, these beasts can't hide anything from me. Like,
right.
God just tells me. So I have the gift of vision and dreaming and interpretation. And so I have books like this, very thick, full of my revelations that, he just tells me. So they think they're sly and they think they have their little secrets, but they don't, I mean, God sees everything and he doesn't keep secrets. So,
right.
I didn't know all growing up, but my mom always taught me about the Illuminati. She always talked about it. Yeah, it was really weird. And my family was always bothered that she was talking about it and would get really annoyed, and nobody else would talk about it but her. And then
why do you think that is?
I think it's because my mom, it's a generational thing where so I was anointed to end this curse on my family bloodline.
Right.
So I was born with that purpose. It has to start somewhere. And my mom kind of has like diarrhea of the mouth like me. Like she doesn't keep secrets well, but she's has a secret oath. She has to cut out the tongue, to, slit the throat, to be disemboweled if they tell the secrets from what they're involved in. And so something I see with a lot of survivors, and something I want to talk about today, is a lot of these positions that are going on within these cult and family bloodlines of the discernment and deception of the enemy's agents, is they hate, some of them hate not being able to talk about any of it. So one of the things they allow them to do is they give them a piece of the puzzle that they can talk about, where you deal with, like, you see controlled disclosure and stuff like that. And some people who can't shut up, they'll be like, okay, you can share this part of your story, and I'm going to send you out into the public eye, and you're going to, because the way the beast system works and Satanism works is they have to tell you what they're doing. Right. That's just God's law. They can't hide it, but they do it in a serpentine sly way. So it's usually with the Hegelian dialect, which is backwards, twisted, or they'll say something in a sarcastic way, but it's true. And so the Holy Spirit will ping those things to me all the time. Like, they told you, didn't you hear that? And I'll flip it back. That's true. Wow. Or it's the opposite.
Yeah, so mirroring's a big thing.
What is
mirroring, whether it's that stuff or numbers, or, it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that she found some sense of freedom in being able to talk about the atrocities in the world. And I do think that somewhere inside of her, she doesn't want to be involved in that stuff.
That's what I would
You're
think,
born
yeah.
into it for generations. So to be able to go out and expose, like, hey, the government's into this. Hey, did you see in Hollywood they're doing, like, since I was a teenager, she's been exposing the like NFL halftimes, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on in the government. Like when I was little, she'd be like, did you know that Bush is like a drug dealer and like they do child trafficking on Air Force One? And I mean, they steal drugs off of Air Force One. Like she used to tell me crazy stuff like that all growing up that nobody around me would have ever believed. And my family would be like, what, Mom, why are you talking about that crap? Like they were always trying to shut her up because that's just another branch of the same beast system that they're involved in. And so for her to be able to expose this piece, like, I can't talk about this piece, so I'll talk about this piece.
Well, plus they know it's like, because of the way that they've also programmed us, through the media and everything, that, and the word conspiracy that was created by the CIA and people saying some of those things to this day, even though so much has come to the forefront, still people just think that's crazy because it seems so outlandish, but it's reality,
Yeah.
Just unreal.
Yeah, it is. And so I've told my story. If people are interested in, all of my story, there's a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel, Kadosh Life, that they can, watch the full details. But I wanted to share that, this isn't you and I's first time talking.
Right. This is round 2.
Yeah, right. We did a video before, which did go up for a minute and then got brought down and then accidentally put back up for a minute and then brought back down. Because I got brave and said some names, and I've said, well, I guess I haven't really said names, but I said a first and a last name, which I probably shouldn't have done. But I'm not. I do that face to face with people, but in a public forum, it's probably the smartest thing to do. I ain't scared, but I did it, and immediately,
based on the response, when someone's that defensive, there's got to be usually there's quite a bit of truth when there's a response like that. The response was a lot deeper than to you because it came to me.
Thank you. And I actually was given a message that I wanted to pass, because what happened was this name of this person that I mentioned, who is actually the person who taught me about SRA. I didn't know anything about it until I met her, and she exposed a bunch of stuff about it to me, and she had worked with a lot of clients as a therapist. And so after she saw you and I did a video, we were mostly focused on talking about my personal knowledge and relationship through Indigenous healing ceremonies with David Hamblin, and you were interested in talking to me about that. And I was shocked when I realized how deep into Satanism he was, because I had quite an extensive interaction with him for a couple of years. And so we focused on that, and then I got into some other pieces of my story. And so it's interesting because you put that video up and it was less than a couple hours after, and I had this person blocked.
That's what blows me away is, how she was aware so quick, because I didn't remember personally, I didn't remember names. And so I was like, why is she doing this?
Yeah. And I'll explain that, because I want to talk to you about the discernment and deception of the enemy's agents that he uses in the system, and how they are imposters in communities like ours. We're talking about survivors. Yep. And so it was interesting because what I realized is we have my channel, your channel, a lot of people who stalk our channels in order to see what's being said. And so the fact that she was right there and on it and knew immediately, and she hadn't found my channel, but she follows you because you've been out there for a while, and she's a Mormon.
Interesting.
So I would. That
makes sense now. Yeah, that makes total sense.
yeah, I would call.
I'm not hiding it.
Right.
Neither one of us are, because like we talked about earlier, you felt the calling. I felt. For over a year, I ignored it. And frankly, out of fear, and backlash, not so much people like that, but family, friends, because I know how they're going to think. They're going to think I'm the lost soul but one day, and I think I mentioned this to you before, it just all disappeared. And I was like, game on. I don't care anymore, because I know God's got my back. And this is important, man. If I was still involved in the church and I had someone, explaining things that were taught not to even question anything, you got to ask yourself, why is it so ingrained in us that it's anti, but yet there's so many books that are put out by the church in the past, that you could get that technically will tell you a lot of those things that you would not agree with, mm-hmm. But we have to be able to consent to what we're doing and what we're involved in. The only way you can do that is if you know the truth.
Well, and the enemy does that through telling you the truth in a twisted way. And Bingo. So then he thinks he can wash his hands of it. And because he has told you in a twisted way, and because you lack knowledge, it's like it says in the Bible, then he has legal right over you. And he does gain legal right over, your bloodline if you don't really seek. And, most Mormons aren't reading the Bible, and that's where the laws are all written. Exactly. So they don't understand how deceived they are. And then there's the whole other level, which is there's the level of people in Mormonism that are just innocent victims and just blind and deceived. And then there's the other level of those who are intentionally there, know they're Luciferian, know they work for the beast and are there to deceive. And so you're dealing with both. And today I want to really talk to and deliver a message to those who are those controlled, intentional deceivers like her and like another family member who clearly she went back and exposed my channel to, because I knew that I was under that covering still, but I knew eventually that my channel was going to come out to my family and that they would find it. And one day God even told me really clearly, like, I want you to go and post some stuff on some places and you're not going to want to do it, but I want you to do it anyway. And it was my channel. And so I put my channel up on a personal account and just kind of in a discreet way. And it still wasn't really found by anybody. But after she did, then like not very long later, I got a cease and desist from a family member. And so
anyone listening's got to see right there, like, why would somebody do that?
Yeah.
If you're not telling the truth, why would that happen?
Exactly. So this is the message. I actually want to read this to you because between her coming out and threatening me with her anger, and then following that, then this family member coming and being like, I'm not involved in any of this. What are you talking about? How dare you call yourself a Christian, kind of thing, I just want to send them a message because they promised, both of them also promised to continue to track me in your channels. So I know they'll see this maybe within an hour after you post it. Because this is, I don't talk to them. So this is the way I'll pass them a little message. Right. And this is the one way that we can, have our Almighty Father send a little message out to you. So she clearly led this family member. So this message that I will share, I'm just going to read it because it'll come out clear. So newsflash to those blinded by a sad life of iniquity and wicked defilement on your bloodline, enmeshed in Freemasonry, elite priesthood or priestcraft, Illuminati, secret societies, the brotherhood, covens, whatever flavor you like to title your wicked ways, you know who you are. And I am sorry for you. I pity the life that you have been forced to live and refuse to escape. I would rather die than be a slave in the world that you were born into. Amen. If you are willing to leave and want out, Jesus is the only way.
Yep.
If you are content in your sin, may you burn like chaff with the harvest. You choose. But here is a word to the wise. You don't put delusional liars in jail if they are simply making up stories. You don't lock people up in psych wards who have made up stories. You don't conspire with cops to steal $50,000 from a mental person who just simply has their facts messed up. You don't take custody of children away from a woman who may just be really confused, who's making up stories or mentally ill, who you claim is lying about family drama or simply fabricating illusions out of her imagination. You don't frame mentally ill, crazy liars for child endangerment. You don't stalk the social media and YouTube channels of lying storytelling, dramatic, mentally ill folks who are spinning webs of lies, worried about what lies they're telling now. The innocent don't concern themselves with rumors and fabrications because they are certain of their innocence. So they know there is no proof and it will all be for naught. The innocent don't threaten to sue for slander when you are innocent because there's no real damage if it's all lies. The only real threat is if there is truth to what's been said. These are all of the things that you do to someone who is speaking the truth, and you are trying to shut them up, shut them down, and keep all of your skeletons in the closet. And all of this being done out of fear and shame of being caught or seen in the daylight for you night walkers, or even you day walkers, with immense rage and wrath of threat and anger is a big fat red flag that screams guilty.
Yeah, that was loud and clear in the DMs I got.
Yep. These are the emotions and behaviors behind a guilty person who has something to hide. And it's only further evidence of what you think remains hidden behind closed doors in the dark of night or underground. These are the behaviors and actions taken by the guilty to hide the truth because of the shame and wickedness that lies behind their wicked ways. Being a rational, sane person myself, as deemed by the several mental health evaluations I have actually undergone, if someone made up a slew of lies about me being involved in heinous, satanic, incestuous, perverse criminal behavior, saying I was involved in a secret society, that I was eating and drinking flesh and blood, harming children, handling the lives of others, and I was not, which I am not, I literally would giggle with sadness for your delusional mind and simply shake the haters.
Exactly.
Because it would be so absolutely ridiculous to make up such lies. It wouldn't even bother me because I would have no true guilt, no shame, and it would have no power over me. So think about your reactions very carefully and the confirmations you offer when you do so. I would take absolutely no action against anyone for being delusional, and they would have no profit, benefit, or threat against me because their lies have no proof or basis, and anyone who knows you or your true character would know that. No? Yep. I know this also because I have been falsely accused by many of y'all, and the truth played out and you didn't hear a word of threat from me. A sane, rational way an innocent human may react would be to reach out to the person making up lies about you and ask him with calm concern for this person, for their intentions and motive for creating such stories in their mind. Maybe ask why they would make up such irrational falsities about you and tell them, we both know these things are lies, and leave it to that. What harm can it really do? None. Which is exactly how we know that the guilty are guilty, by the way they lose it when they are exposed for the truth, threatening with legal action and wild anger when they are caught red-handed in their secrets and come threatening slander suits and delivering cease and desists. I have been lied on before, and it has never bothered me more than for the concern for that person who made up these lies and wonder for how anyone could truly fabricate illusions out of the air to harm another. Then find myself being more concerned for their own judgment when they have to face the judgment of a living God in dread. So I did have a letter written to me when I got married to my ex-husband that was intentionally opened. It was a whole setup by his family. They do these like shame rituals. So before my wedding, a shame ritual was set up, and somebody was given an assignment to write a letter about me, exposing all of my sins to my husband, to my fiance the night before our wedding. And his mom handed him a letter, and he opened it up in front of the whole family and started reading a list of...
No way.
Oh, yeah. It was wretched.
Oh, my hell.
I grabbed that letter and I ran out the back door and I just ran down the street. And I mean, I had been repenting, trying to get worthy to get married in the temple. We didn't get married in the temple, but we were still a year later.
Well, first of all, who's the judge? I mean, that's sick.
Yeah. You want to know how it started? Yeah. It said, Bryce, I was so excited to hear about your upcoming marriage until
I learned
who it was too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then they went on to say how I had They had heard me with their own mouth deny that I believed in Jesus and all. And I'm like, are you kidding me, girl? I was the one like drunk, smoking weed at the party who was bearing my testimony. Like, really?
Yeah.
You think that? And then she said I slept with the entire basketball team at Utah State. And I was like, I
Jeez.
never touched a basketball player. I might have danced with some football players, but you obviously don't know your facts. But still, nonetheless, he read it in front of his whole family.
I mean, who,
And
even if it was true, who does that? You know?
well, and
Gosh.
the fact is that it was clear that his mom handing him the letter and the way she said it there, and the way he's opened it and continued reading it in front of his whole family before I snatched it out of his hand once it got far enough and ran out the back door, like he was in on it. You know, that was one of the other ways I knew, like he was set up to marry me and had been trying to degrade me from the onset of his agreement with my family.
That's just a way to give him like massive control over you out of the gate.
I mean, well, yeah, and just keeping somebody like
to hold you in check and
down,
just,
keeping somebody down by these shaming, like initiation type rituals and bullying is a way to keep their spirit, their soul, their gifts, their abilities, you know, deflated so that they can't come and figure out, and their spiritual gifts can't grow and they can't see into the spirit and realize who you really are, which eventually is exactly what happened. You know, God started showing me and tearing the veil off once I renounced Mormonism and renounced the beast system and broke my family curses and covenants. And all it took is me saying it and writing it down. It wasn't like a hard deliverance. Then he just went, okay, now this is who they are. And then my sister, she also used to accuse me. She still does. I just barely had a weird interaction with her the other day of sleeping with this guy that she's like, he tried to kiss me one time and I was like, whoa, we were just having this conversation and out of nowhere, it was the most awkward. I was like, whoa, no. And nothing happened. He just leaned in and I would have never touched him. I mean, and I think my family might, I don't know if it's her DID or what it is, but she's accused me of sleeping with him so many times. We have had a relationship through all that. I never freaked out on her. I never tried to sue her. Like, it's just ridiculous that, you know, I know because I've had this stuff done to me my whole life, the normal reactions to lies being told on you. And it's not normal. So let's see, I was going to read a few more things. I just could never fathom the wicked intentions of one who set out with such evil to do such harm to others with blatant lies with no proof or basis, and in fact knowing it's a delusional lie to tear them down. So those who are out there claiming that I'm making up lies about you when in reality you are simply trying to cover the shame and tracks of your affiliations with wicked, vile sin and crimes against God, humanity, and children because of your roles in your cults and secret societies, just know that your own anger and threats are the greatest witness of your truth that you claim are lies. As I'm sitting here reading this, I realize this ring was actually given to me by this woman we've been talking about.
No way.
She gave me this. Wow. And it's so funny because I actually tried to get rid of this so many times after I realized that they use crystals for stuff. Like, she called my boyfriend at the time and was like, what ring should I get Cherie, or which do you think she would want, a necklace or earrings or ring? You know, and they had this whole conversation about it and she ended up buying me this gift. Well, it disappeared for a while and was left at a friend's house. And then when God was showing me my promised spouse, it showed back up, because this was not given to me by her. This was given to me by God. And this is how they work. Like, they always think they're trying to do some little curse, and God's always ways are way higher than their ways. So I tried to get rid of this thing many times. It's been gone out of my life. I buried it outside. I dug a hole and I buried it. Oh my gosh. And it rained one day and I took my dogs out, and like a month later it was sitting on top of the dirt again. And God was like, it's cleansed. Just keep it. It's my promise to you. It's not from her.
Wow.
So I love that we're sitting here talking about her. And then I just realized I'm wearing this ring that she gave me. So thank you, friend. I do love the promise that you gave me from God. I really appreciate it. So not to mention the fact that God knows that you live a major cover life and attempt to keep your sins hidden in the shadows, if that were actually even really possible to hide from God. But your attempts to lock up and throw away the key to all of those who speak truth about your secret says it all. Simple fact is, no one cares that much when a delusional sociopath spins a slew of lies about someone that simply isn't true. There's no basis or truth behind it all. If people knew your true character, and if I am just a lying mental case, then you have nothing to worry about, right? Nobody cares. So when you do care so much, then you should just let it turn to naught. the truth. It's just blatantly clear. So those of us who are innocent and actually are not involved in all of that know that very well, because we have had to turn the other cheek so many times on the abuse and plots and plans that you have willed against us in order to cover your tracks and make it seem as if we chose it all. They're really good at that, setting up your life so that it seems like you chose that. They're literally, they're better than Hollywood. They live their real lives. It's a fake reality that is plotted and planned. They have meetings, these families, they have meetings, they plot and plan with people like me who are labeled the expendables. And they do quite an interesting job setting up and framing things to make you think you chose certain things in your life that they have completely designed for you. So anyway, let's see. I wanted to say a couple other things about it, but okay, I want to read a verse from the Bible regarding this, because I actually was sitting down the day before God kind of dropped that he wanted me to talk about this today with you. And my son just opened, we were reading out of the Bible. And after we read it, it hit me while I was kind of taking some of these notes that this was the actual chapter he wanted me to share some verses from. So here's the message to our little stalkers from the occult who, are trying to figure out what we're up to. Straight from God. He wants to talk to you. So take some heed to his word.
Yeah.
Remember this and stand firm. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times, things not even yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all of my purpose. Calling a bird of prey from the east, the man of my counsel from a far country. It's calling a bird of prey. That means he's going to send in a bird of prey to do what? You tell me. I have spoken and I will bring it to pass. I have purposed and I will do it. Listen to me, you stubborn of heart, you who are far from righteousness. I bring near my righteousness. It is not far off, and my salvation will not delay. I will put my salvation in Zion for Israel, my glory. This is Isaiah 46, 8 through 13. And then Isaiah 47, 8 through 15 says, now therefore hear this, you lover of pleasures, who sit securely, who say in your heart, I am, and there is no one besides me. Those of you who are running around in your little Freemasonry thinking, I'm God. Yeah. Well, we're all God. I don't need no God. Oh, well, I've got news for you. I shall not sit as a widow or know the loss of children. These two things shall come to you in one moment, in one day. The loss of children and widowhood shall come upon you in full measure. That can go out to everybody who helped take away my children. You will lose your children in one day. In spite, and it won't have anything to do with me, by the way.
Right. No.
I will have hands off. So don't think this is a threat from me. There's an almighty creator upstairs who it's coming to. So don't think this is coming from me. In spite of your many sorceries and the great power of your enchantments, you felt secure in your wickedness. You said, no one sees me. Your wisdom and your knowledge led you astray. And you said in your heart, I am, and there is no one besides me. But evil shall come upon you, which you will not know how to charm away. Disaster shall fall upon you, for which you will not be able to atone. And ruin shall come upon you suddenly, of which you know nothing. Stand fast in your enchantments. Oh, I love this when God gets sarcastic. Stand fast in your enchantments and your many sorceries, with which you have labored from your youth. Perhaps you may be able to succeed. Perhaps you may inspire terror. You are wearied with your many counsels. Let them stand forth and save you. Those who divide the heavens with your divination, who gaze at the stars with your astrology, who at the new moons make what shall come upon you. Behold, they are like stubble. The fire consumes them. They cannot deliver themselves from the power of the flame. No coal for warming oneself is this, no fire to sit before. Such to you who are those with whom you have labored, all of you in your whole little coven clubs, all your little brotherhoods, who have done business with you from your youth. They love those networks.
Yeah.
They wander about each in his own direction. There is no one to save you. God's coming to get you so you can repent.
He's coming for sure. And
Or
it's
he's
not
coming to
far
get
away.
All right. So that was that. But another thing I really wanted to expose is the specific systems of they have many different roles that they send in as imposters. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And one of the gifts and abilities he's given me, one of my anointings, is being a spy unto the Lord. And so they think they're real cute with their handlers and all their little spies, but little do they know that he birthed spies into their own families all over the place who are going to come out and tell all their little secrets one day. Not only can you not shut us up, I'm called by God. I'm chosen to speak. I'm commanded to tell these things. And if I don't, I'm in danger. Right. If I do, and you think you can put me in danger, you're going to have a dreadful God to deal with. So good luck. Exactly. I ain't scared, so have fun with that. So you've got controlled opposition, which is, people who, those would be these little things that they did in my life. That when there's a constant opposition playing out in your life, it inhibits you from being able to live to your fullest purpose and really find truth when you're seeking for it. So they come out and let's see, we see it in the government. We see it with the fires that are being started. Controlled opposition happens on many levels. It happens at the governmental level. It happens in family levels of these cults. It happens on personal levels, whether it's just a friend who's like messing with you all the time just to try to keep you down. There's a role of controlled opposition, and they make it seem like they are part of God's team. They always try to make it seem like they're the good guy, but they're actually doing this controlled job.
And there was someone I had on my channel 3 different times, and I'll decide if I say the name, or not, because I really I don't care too much about that. But there's people out there, like you said, that they are delivering about 95% truth.
Yeah.
And it sucks you in.
Mm-hmm.
But, eventually, if you're paying attention, and have a little bit of discernment, you can see it. And it was so weird because the 3rd interview, I just felt it automatic. It just happened. It was so weird. And if I'm being honest, I've never felt like my whole life I've told myself that story that I don't have that ability. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And which is crazy because the stories we tell ourselves are usually just BS, that we're grabbing onto something and just continuing to tell it. And
those
then
are
if you
the
do,
spells from
that
false
does
religion.
happen. Yeah, exactly.
Those are spells from false religion. Oh, you need a prophet. You can't do that yourself.
Exactly.
What do you think of talking to God? That's my job to do for you.
Yeah.
Come on, Steve.
So messed up. So when it hit, and then it was so weird too, because that 3rd video I did put up and had a 4th scheduled like a month later. And a couple ladies commented. And at first I wasn't sure if they were being shills, but I'm also looking at things from, I'm in this to find the truth.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm wrong, and I'm presenting stuff doesn't mean I'm saying it's 100% truth. I'm saying based on my research and information and people that I've talked to that have reached out to me, just strangers, that maybe I'll read a text before we're done. That's just mind blowing, total stranger. But anyway, they sent me, so I reached out and said, hey, send me a direct message, you don't need to be commenting on here about whatever. And they did. And they just said, hey, we've reached out to so many patriots and no one's even listened. We're so glad that you will. And I'm like, and I just told them that, hey, if you have some information, I want to know it. Like, I'm not too good to admit that. And then I'm not going to give someone a platform if that's the situation. And sure enough, the information they had gathered, there's even a Telegram channel 100% dedicated to that. And it's crazy. And so, I'm not the type that, even though I don't want the evil one to have people have platforms, etc., I don't just go put it on blast necessarily either, but I did reach out to some guys I respect and have some big audiences and just said, hey, here's what I've found, and take it for what it's worth. I'm just choosing not to give her a platform anymore.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. Both of them, actually, she hasn't been back on.
Yeah. And, and by the way, I'm happy to share if anybody wants to know who these names are. If you're going, who are they talking about? Email me. I'll send you all their names. Anybody we talk about, I'll give you their first and last. I'm just going to remain politically correct for the sake of,
right.
Keeping things. I'm not really one to be politically correct, but just for the sake of keeping, the channel safe and whatever.
Well, and the brain damage and all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like we still get everything across that we need to.
Yeah. Email me and I'll tell you exactly who we're talking about. I have no problem telling you any of these people's names on the side. The person you're talking about, I was shown in vision. Because God's like, once you enter into a covenant with God, he will expose them to you. And It's funny too, because a lot of them come trying to bark up my tree, and he's shown me every time who they are. So it's like, yeah, that's a good try.
That's
you
awesome.
Thought you were handling me. Little do you know, just call me Caleb and Joshua, I go to the Father with these names because he needs an agent on earth reporting to him and praying. And so I'm not the judge. I don't know really what you're up to. He does. He's the one who tells me what you're up to. I just thought you wanted to interview me for a show, and then I find out, oh, look, this person's shape shifting on some of their other shows. Isn't this a sly serpent?
Crazy. Yeah.
And so then I can go behind the scenes and say, hey, in the community, and tell all the survivors, you think you're going to your hierarchy and telling your hierarchy who we are?
Yeah.
We're covered by God now.
That's right.
You're dealing with a bunch of repented, covered people, who are in covenant with Jesus Christ. You're in a covenant with the devil. So go ahead and go chat away. But your name's now being recorded in the heavens because we see you and you've been exposed. And so good luck with that, Yeah.
In fact, if anyone wants to learn about this person and the information, you can go to truthtalkwithsteve.com and it says I think on the homepage, just a few lines down, the truth about JC,
Okay.
So there's so much information there. It's crazy.
Well, and one of the interesting things too about that is that we also shouldn't have fear of these people. If you are in a tight, you should have fear if you're not covered by the blood and you're not, born again and saved, because then when you're exposing truth, and you're dealing with the enemy's agent, you don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
But if you're seeking the Lord, then you shouldn't have fear of that, because he sent me into the lion's den, into the snake's pit so many times. And then he won't tell me until after. And then it's like, well, I wanted you to go there so that you could, because I want you to grow in your faith and your strength as a warrior, and you're going to have to grow. The wheat grows up with the tares. So I did go into hiding for a season, but that was because I was going through my anointing. I was going into my deep covenant, into learning how to receive. And there's a refinement that happens in that, not because I was scared. There was definitely PTSD, but the second he said go, it's like, all right, so now I have to deal with these folks again, and though we have greater numbers than they that are with them. So we don't have to worry about that. They're going to show up, they're out in the community, but I'm going to expose a bunch of their roles right now. And so we've got the controlled opposition. She's also the one we're talking about, controlled disclosure. And the reason that they do that is, again, because in the satanic system, they have to tell you what they're doing, but they do it in a twisted way. So a lot of the things they will say are true, but they also sometimes are delivering threats. Like her that you're talking about, I've seen her, she said on one of her videos, they were talking about there's that oath that you do with the eye, the black eye.
Yeah.
And she was having a conversation about this with someone who I also believe is a trans that she talks with all the time. She's talking about the book and the exposure. And then she, at the end of the show, she says, so any of you men out there who have possibly been through this ritual, maybe you could come forward and tell us your story. That would be interesting. And what she was doing, what that is, that was a threat. wouldn't it be interesting if you came
No
forward
doubt.
with your oath to cut out the tongue and tried to tell what you do in that secret ritual? So you really learn. It's actually, God told me to watch her for a season, but he said, but do it with caution. And so I still wasn't sure. I just completely reserve all judgment on the shelf.
Right.
And then after I was completely neutral and had no idea, because the other thing is a lot of these people are claiming to be survivors of the occult, right?
There's a lot of
They're
those.
SRA
Yeah.
survivors.
That's
And
what this
so
one
you give
particularly
them a
claims.
lot of leeway to just get
Exactly.
screwed up, right? Because they were DID, they
Bingo.
were born into these generational families who are wicked evil. And so sometimes they just like, you don't feel the spirit when they
I mean,
talk.
right out of the gate, you feel sorry for them so that you
Yeah.
don't really pay attention, you know?
And another thing that's going on is they get like my situation. I'm not nearly as famous. Not that I'm trying to be famous. I don't want to be famous,
Right,
but there
me
is
neither.
like almost like this fame thing going on within these communities. And they really push the ones up really high. There's almost more notoriety or fandom happening the darker your childhood was. And you know why that is, and you know why you have to be cautious of that, because these people who come out and tell their stories, who reveal a lot of this stuff, it can become like no different than going and watching a horror film.
Yeah.
You know, so now you're just enthralled in the craziness of their story rather than the testimony of the salvation that came about. And so it's a fine line for some of these people who are, even for the followers, you know, we all have to be careful, even in who we automatically trust and support, because the fact is that a lot of these SRA survivors are not survivors. They're agents, and they're still in the occult. They're still part of the Illuminati. They're there to get your email. Now, when you're like, oh, I relate to you and I'm going to send you an email. I did this with her, who we're talking about. When I reached out to her and there was a coldness and some weird stuff, she was like, okay, I'll pass on your information. But once I pass it on, I can't make any promises what happens with that information after that. And it's like, okay, that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah,
what's going to happen?
Right.
Another one of those kind of threats without being a threat. Like, well, I don't know. Do you know who I'm actually sharing this information with? You know, kind of thing. And so, so you've got the controlled disclosure, the controlled opposition, and it's not just going to be one. A lot of these people are doing many of these different roles. You know, a double agent who's playing both sides. You think they're a saved Christian, and actually they're fully involved. And I mean, one girl who came to me here, and by the way, I should also say, I've had personal experiences with all of these positions. This is how I know, because God sends these people to me to expose. And so one of them she acted like she was my friend. She acted like she had the same judge as me. Her name was Dragon. That's not her real name. I can say it. She goes by Dragon. And that should have been a big red flag. One of the things she said to me one day at the pool was, you don't think like I'm some kind of Satanist or something, do you? Because my name is Dragon. Because she's like, because it's Dragonfly. But actually on her social media names, it's Dragonflies, like FLIES.
Flies, yeah.
Right. And so they play these word games with you.
Big time.
And one of the things she said to me when she first walked in and started this whole big conversation with me, she was singing and rapping and like doing poetry because she knows I'm into all that stuff, like within the first 20 minutes I saw her. And she said to me, she's like, do you think I'm crazy? Because she immediately started talking like conspiracy theories, Freemasonry, all this stuff. That's another reason. It was too fast, too soon. She was trying to gather information to me to see what I knew, because I'd cut everybody off. So they found somebody in my own community to come and like they're everywhere. And so she goes,
that's what I've learned. It's crazy how everywhere they are.
She's like, do I even trust you? Do I dare to talk to you? I mean, are you the CIA? Am I the CIA?
Jeez.
She said that to me. She goes, and that was one of those things that God brought to me later, that ping. She said, am I the CIA? Okay, she just told me. That's the disclosure that the Satanist, the dragon, has to tell you who they are. So she asked me in a question, so my soul would go, I don't know, are you? And then it wasn't very long later when I was like, oh yeah, you are the CIA. No wonder you have two phones and it's a one-way relationship and you always want to know what I'm doing. You want to know how I tested it? It was so easy. I said, what apartment number do you live in, after we'd known each other for like a month? And she's like, oh, it's like, and then she says one number and then she's like, wait, no, was like, this number. And then she's like, I don't even know. She didn't want me to know what number she lived in. She wanted all my information about my whole life, but she didn't want me to know where she lived. There's just these little things that they do, So you've got the therapists who are reprogrammers, which is one of the ladies that I was talking about that I dealt with. She was gathering all of these, like any SRA survivor in the Mormon community, she knew them. They wrote a book on it. She knew them. Thank you, by the way, to who I'm speaking to. I'd like to tell you thank you for all that you taught me and for getting me set up for the Lord's work and position that he was giving me, because I wouldn't even know what any of this is if you hadn't come into my life. So I appreciate you. Imposters in the SRA community, there's all kinds of imposters. Some of them are just gathering information, but a lot of their stories they're either not true, or they'll give you true facts about their life and childhood, saying that they've left the occult and that they're out and they're just trying to discover, more about it. And really they're trying to gather information from you, and they're still fully practicing occult ritual going, Illuminati members that are taking this information back because they're afraid, because they want to figure out what you're telling. What are you telling on us? Because they want to make sure that their secrets aren't going too far, and they want to know how worried they should be, about what's being said about them. There's also, I've come across, there's survivors in the family court system who are saying, that their ex is a Freemason or taken their children and abused their children. When in reality, and this one's really sad. I had somebody come to me recently and expose this. And because for somebody like in a situation like mine, where I did lose my children in a family court system, and then a lot of other people who are like full SRA survivors or were married to a Freemason who's sexually abusing their children, and they can't get their child back in the family court system, then they go out publicly and beg for help and just tell their story. But we've located at least one who the child really doesn't seem to have been abused. Like, she's a witch.
Oh, wow.
And you end up in a situation where you lose your kid because really what it seems like, I'm going to have the girl come on my show and tell her story. But this girl was astral traveling into people's rooms who wouldn't help her and doing witchcraft over them and curses after not supporting her or realizing that her story didn't line up and wasn't true about her daughter's sexual abuse. She has a massive following, of supposedly her child being taken away and being given to a pedophile. And what it really looks like is she made that up because she knew that that was a thing that happens, but she lost a relationship that she wanted and she was into witchcraft. So this is how she twisted it. So you've got serpents everywhere. You got your hybrid shape-shifting Nephilim. They're totally well, alive, active, doing their part. I did tell this on the last show, and I realized I never got to the point of it, and I should tell it again because we're hoping to release that video eventually. We'll just do some mutes on the names. But this experience blew my mind because this is somebody that I met at one of the indigenous ceremonies that I went to, where David Hamblin was there. And this guy told me this story about how, he was really seeking deep healing because he'd had a very traumatic experience and he was into mysticism. And so he had, he told me he had friends who could literally fly. He had seen them because they were so into the power of mysticism and had, been doing this their whole lives. And these were some of his best friends. And he'd had this thing where he would speak this language with his body. Like, while he would talk, he would do these different contortions with his arms, his legs, his hands. It was his whole body language. And I guess it was an ancient temple language that he would speak with his body. And he had these friends who were his buddies in mysticism who had threatened him and told him, you got to quit doing that in public. That's that's a sacred language. You can't just be doing that out in public while you're talking to people. And he was like, oh, really? Well, thanks for your advice. Like, I have my own higher power. I don't really need you to tell me what to do. And so he kept going on with it. Well, they really wanted to shut him down from doing this. So he's telling me, and this is one of those things where, like, Holy Spirit is revealing, this is true. You can see the trauma on this guy's face. He's a mess. And he was laying in his bed in his room, just sitting there. And all of a sudden, these guys that he'd known for a long time walk into his room and threaten him that if he doesn't stop this, that you know, whatever is going to happen. And I don't even think they said anything. He said all that happened is they came in his room and they revealed their true faces to him. Wow. Okay. And I have somebody who interviewed me who now I've seen revealing her true face. Unknowingly, I don't know if she realizes in some of her videos, her little shape-shifting diagram isn't holding up so strong, and that little green light in your mouth is showing you serpent, you know, of old. Yeah. And so he saw their true faces, and I asked him, I said, well, what did they look like? And he said, I will never tell. And he said, that is a trauma I don't want to relive, that I don't want anybody else to have to try to imagine. And he said, but one of the things is that I had sought that my whole life. That's something I had not unknowingly, subconsciously, he had been seeking, you know, certain knowledge his whole life. But when he saw it, it was so traumatizing. And he wasn't seeking Jesus Christ. He didn't have the blood covering him, you know, so he didn't really know how to deal with it. So he was seeking indigenous ceremonial help with this. So one of the main things that I left out once we do this other video and you realize I talked about it is that the craziest thing that happened after this is they came and revealed their faces in this threatening way. He had two people that he had considered sharing this with because it was so traumatic. He's like, who can I tell? I've got to tell somebody. This is so crazy. I can't believe I just saw this, you know, a human being, shapeshifter right in front of your face, walking in your room, and just like somebody you thought you knew is not who you thought they were. And I believe this is coming. I believe we're going to see a lot more of that coming up, that these people are going to start, that these beings, these hybrids are going to start exposing themselves in a more brave and bold way. And so he had two people in mind he was going to tell, and he didn't tell anyone. He didn't talk to anyone about it. He was just kind of setting up. He set up a lunch with his mom and a get together with his ex-girlfriend or wife. And before he could even meet with them, within a 2-week period, both of them ended up dead.
No way.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Dead. Both of them. Okay, this is how crazy these people are. And this is what if you're going to go out and seek truth and you're doing it in a way that you're mixing New Age and mysticism with Christianity and you're not careful and you don't know what you're dealing with and you're playing with fire and you don't know who's in your court. These people just killed his loved ones, you know, I mean, these beings, these hybrids. And so anyway, there's just been more and more of that coming forward. It's a real thing. It's not like we're in the days of Noah. That's the legitimate time that we're in. Like it says in the Bible, as in the days of the coming of the Son of Man, it will be as it was in the days of Noah. And I also have 3 contacts, now 4, who have confirmed to me a well-known anti-trafficking agency is not actually anti-trafficking, but is trafficking. They're actually setting up the need and demand for the children to be delivered. Who knows what actually happens to them at the hands of Freemasons and Mormons after the children are delivered. But I was connected with an agent who actually worked on his team up until just barely, and is now exposing eventually more than one. And, you know, he's anonymous right now, but we definitely God has his spies in their systems too, that eventually are going to really expose on a whole other level what's going on there. And then you just have, you know, your modern day handlers and double agent informants who just deal with you on your personal life, who are just sent in to act like your friend. Most handlers you just think are your friend. You just think they're maybe your husband, maybe your best friend, maybe, you know, you're somebody that you go to church with. You don't know who your handlers are, but they're assigned to you, and they're assigned to give information back if they see you breaking out of programming or coming to any kind of level where they're worried or concerned about, like, you're discovering too much about either who they are or who the system is. They work for the beast, and they're all over the place. So was that all of them? Those are the ones that I've come across so far. I'm sure that there's plenty more.
There's no doubt. I mean, everything you talked about, I'm definitely familiar with. And, you know, some of the people listening are probably going to think some of this is outlandish. I get it, but, you know, you need to freaking dig in and do your own due diligence and research, because, you know, some of this stuff years ago, I felt the same thing, but, you know, we live in a world that is so evil, it is hard to even comprehend, you know.
Yeah.
And they've done a masterful job at hiding it, but it is getting exposed like crazy now. And
well, and it's all in the Bible. Like,
exactly.
I mean, it's all there. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like, maybe you need to go throw away all your fiction books. I've never been able to read fiction myself because the truth is stranger than fiction is real. And
true.
so, like, just get into the reality of life and throw your fiction away. And that's why a lot of people get so hung up and come into like fandomhood of these survivor stories because they're addicted to the drama and the trauma within it. And yeah, you know, they'll be supportive, but a lot of times, you know, like I said, it's more like, what happened to, because it's so unbelievable.
Exactly.
You know, especially to those people. I mean, trust me, it's hard for me to believe because I wouldn't touch this crap with a 10-foot pole. There are plenty of days I wake up and I go, am I completely insane? That's what normal rational people do. Who are not eating and drinking blood, you know, and flesh and harming children, is you go, am I crazy? Because people with a pure heart cannot fathom what the wicked do.
Exactly.
You cannot fathom it
out there. Yeah. So just.
And so if it's hard for you to believe, good, maybe you have a pure heart, but maybe you should learn that it does tell you in the Bible, you need to learn to be as wise as the serpents, you know?
Right. Yeah.
That's important.
So true.
I have another little message that I want to send to all these positions that I just went into. Not that I want to, that God asked me to. This was just given to me. So this isn't my job. I'm just a vessel. So this is what God is delivering. So for all of these little secret keepers and, you know, handshakers and oath makers, and I have news for you. God does not keep secrets.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if everybody that you have your secret handshakes with keeps secrets really good. It doesn't matter how well you've cut your own tongue out. God does not keep secrets. And it says in Isaiah 48:16, draw near to me, hear this. From the beginning, I have not spoken in secret. From the time it came to be, I have been there. And now the Lord God has sent me and his Spirit. So he's not keeping your secrets for you. So don't blame those of us who are talking under rule and command of Almighty Yah. Because you're going to meet your maker soon enough. It's not that far off, you know, and so it's all going to be exposed one way or another. I am the least of your worries. We're the least of your worries.
That's right.
Because all we're doing is talking. Like there is a mighty God that you should be in holy fear of, in fear and trembling, working out your salvation in fear and trembling, you know. So
not too late for you to do the right thing.
Right.
It's getting close.
Exactly. And I didn't figure this stuff out on my own. God showed it to me. God took it off and put it into me and taught it to me and showed me what they're doing through Holy Spirit. And he told me to shout it from the rooftops. So go take it up with him. Like, who gives 2 cents what I think? Like I said, I'm the least of your worries. A healthy dose of fear of a living God. So I personally learned all of this the hard way too. I mean, my sins weren't even intentional. My sins weren't even nearly as vile. I am a sinner. I have major sin on my plate.
Same here.
And it gave the enemy legal right to me. And guess what? Your master, he's coming to turn on you, and you might have all this freedom and this comfort and peace, thinking, "Oh, he hasn't done anything to me." And you know the other lie that all y'all believe?
He doesn't give a shit about him.
Exactly.
No.
Because he's like, "Oh, you're in my power." And the great thing is that. Oh wait, what was I just going to say? I forgot where I was. Okay, let me just keep reading because I lost that train of thought. Yeah. So you think you have spies and handlers. You think Yahweh doesn't have his own spies and handlers? We're spies unto the Lord, the Calebs and the Joshuas. The difference is we work with clean hands. Okay, so obviously there's a big difference between these roles that we play. But we don't have to do anything to you. All we're doing is speaking the truth of your ways. Why? Right. Because we're exposing this so that we can have freedom. That's all we want. It's just freedom to worship our God. And that's all you've been doing our whole lives, is keeping us from worshiping our God. That's all. That's literally what it comes down to, is being able to be with Creator in a fullness. And that's all the beast is trying to do, is keep us from doing that, because he's jealous, because he doesn't get that. Oh, I remembered what I was going to say. One of the things that these little imposters teach, that I even kind of fell for a minute, and it's more taught in the New Age, but we're starting to see it even showing up in biblical Christianity, and it really deceives people who don't go and read the Bible on their own and follow just somebody who's teaching and talking and don't do enough of their own study, is there is this horrific false teaching that all will be saved.
Yeah.
And so that's why this is one of the damaging things, is these people, and I feel sad for you. I do. I feel really sad for you, because the deceit is that this is your job, your role, your calling. You were born into this bloodline because of the yin and the yang, the light and the dark.
Yeah.
Right. And the light has its purpose. And without the opposition,
there must be opposition. Yeah.
There has to be opposition. Who's going to do it if you don't do it? Yep. That's your calling. Right. So you were taught that your good deeds can counterbalance your bad deeds. This is what the Freemasons do. They have to do a good deed daily, because they believe that when they get to heaven, that they're going to be saved. They can do vile wicked as long as they do good. I can go and have this horrific ritual with this child in this darkness today, but today, one of my slaves, I'm going to set them free. Today, I'm going to give this slave extra money and feed them. Today, I'm going to go help you move out of that house that you lived in that was a prison that I've been handling you in. Like, you really think that like, it's a true deceit, though, because I've lived in that space for a brief moment. I didn't really believe it, but God allowed me to have lamb's wool over my eyes with some different things to try on some beliefs in the New Age for a little while, just so that I could come out and understand that some of these people who are doing these things are truly deceived. But the good news is that he's given me visions that he is about to cut the heads off of these monsters. The main ones who are so vile and wicked and they will not repent are going to be taken out of the picture. Oh, sorry. Right. This lie that is believed by the truly deceived, who are doing and working for the enemy, but are under this belief that, well, it's okay because I'll eventually be saved, even if I have to deal with, some consequences. I'm called. This is my job, because you have no true understanding or ability to see into like eternity and the consequences of your deeds. So they teach that. And this was two different people that I've been affiliated with truly teach and believe that even Satan is going to be saved. That even he provides this oppositional role to God in order for us to come and have this experience that's just basically like a test, so that we can ascend. And he served too, because you wouldn't have been able to have this experience. So God, that's how loving God is. That's the love of God.
That's messed up.
Which is just a full-blown horrific lie and deceit, because God is just and there is justice coming. And you're really going to feel sad and regret that you didn't, repent and turn away. And, the other issue is that some of these people aren't even fully human. And so they're not even thinking repentance. They're those who are fully aware that they are hybrid, that they are serpent, that they are here to steal, kill, and destroy, that they got to wear a really good cloak and cover and be really good at their little shape shifting until, the day of their dread, at the day the vengeance of the Lord comes and wipes them out. And they're not even scared. They know who our God is and they don't care. There's levels. So there's that at one end of the spectrum. And then there's the other end of the spectrum of those who are truly deceived and believe this like light and dark and the balance and doing my good deeds. And it's like, go pick up your Bible, because you want to know what God says about your good deeds. This is what he has to say about your good deeds. In Isaiah 64:6, he says, "We have all become like one who is unclean, and all of our righteous deeds are like a polluted garment, like filthy rags. We all fade like a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind that takes us away. The term filthy rags is quite strong, but the word filthy rags is translated in the Hebrew to ida, which literally means the bodily fluids from a woman's menstrual cycle. The word rags is translated to beged, meaning a rag or a garment. Therefore, these righteous acts that you think are going to weigh out and balance after you provide your opposition to the system, these by God are seen as repugnant and soiled feminine hygiene product. So you want to be a maxi pad tampon out there thinking you're doing your work and you're going to be saved. Sorry, but your master lied to you. He's coming to get you. And so, those who I usually don't address them. I wouldn't even address these people that are doing this work.
Right.
But I felt really called today. Holy Spirit was strong on this one. Like, I want you to speak directly because I've already had minimum of 2, and I know that there's others and more who track you and I and many other people in the community, our channels, to see what we're saying. And so those of you who are out there and that's your role, your job is one of these positions, I'm talking to you today. God's talking to you, because I didn't want nothing to do with this message, but he did, because he still loves you. And some of you are still redeemable. And all you have to do when he comes, and he's been telling me this for a while now. And like I said, the way that I see it is the major players who are really have control of like their family and their bloodline. Like for me, he let me out there. Here or there, we see people coming out, right? But there are some who it's like, especially the men. We haven't seen a lot of men coming out of these Freemason bloodlines. They're really wrapped up in their jobs. They don't know how to get out of their work. They have a million of the brotherhood that work with them in their network, and they don't know how to get out without completely annihilating their whole life, their whole family. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't know how to get away. And because they're in it, they know how thick and deep it is, because that's all they've ever known is that's all I ever knew. And I wasn't.
That's what's so hard. But it's true. It's no different than the, whatever you want to call them, the sheep that are so asleep. You just got to ask yourself the questions, and let go of what you've been programmed. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but the bottom line is help's out there, and with the power of God, anything is possible.
Absolutely. And we are about to see this season take place where he is going to remove some of those major players who have the most power and authority, darkness over a lot of these captive slaves who are completely programmed and who were born into this and who really don't want to be a part of it, who it's not in their heart and they don't know any other way out. And they're half asleep, but also aware, but also want out, but don't know how to get out. Yeah. This season is coming. So this is also my message for those of you, that there is hope, that there is an exit strategy, and you'll know it when you see it, because that person will be removed. So you better get on your knees and start praying. Email me, ask me for my handbook. All you have to do is ask me for my handbook. I'll email it to you. And it has every renunciation prayer that you need to escape the beast system and to get into full covenant with Yahweh through the blood of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, who can redeem you and save you from any sin you've been forced to do, no matter how vile it is. If you don't like doing vile sin, then get ready to stop and repent and turn away from it, and know that you can be redeemed out of that. You can.
No question. Yep. And protected even,
Absolutely. And that's the hardest part. You can be protected right under your own handlers, and he'll help you find a way out, a way that you never thought was possible.
There's some amazing stories out there about that stuff. It's crazy. I can't remember that when I was listening to, but I'll find it and maybe talk about it another time. But just a few days ago, I ran across one, and it was a man who was deep into it, like deep, and anyway, and through Jesus Christ, he said, bottom line, that was it, and I'll have to find it because it was fascinating. I'd never heard it before.
Well, and the thing is that I have heard of some people, and there are some people, like people you and I have been talking about today, who have, come out on their channels and said, I've been made to be a cannibal. I've been made to be a murderer, but by the blood of Yeshua. And then God has come and showed me a vision saying, yeah, they're still in the Illuminati. They're big.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's tricky because it seems like we've seen some of this. Maybe there's been some, I know there has been, there's a lot of true SRA victims, but there's also some major deceit. That some people who haven't left that and are those serpents. But we are about to see a real big major culmination. And what we're really going to see that's going to be different is the men. We're going to see a lot of the men being delivered from this, and a lot of the children who are still in it, because a lot of these, a lot of what we see now is somebody who has grown into adulthood and they've expired out of the program. They're not useful anymore because their pedophiles don't want them anymore. They're in adulthood, so now they're choosing marriage, and then they eventually wake up and can get themselves out because as a grown adult. But what we're going to see, a lot of their parents being removed, small children. There's going to be a lot of kids needing to be fostered.
Yeah.
There's going to be a big turnover so that the Lord can come in and redeem some of his people, because a lot of people are talking about the end and the rapture and all these things. We're have a season where we're going to see a preparatory piece for all of that is going to come, and it's on the cusp, trust me. But there's going to be some redemption and salvation and an escape route and some consequences for the major high ups. Yeah. And then I think we see the rest of Revelations play out. That's what I've been shown anyways, because there are some people who don't have a way out, who don't know how to get out, who want out, who it is not in their heart. And they have to be given that opportunity. So some of these people who are just, they're the ones I always talk about, who God tells me, don't even pray for this people. And it's all over in the Bible where God says, do not pray for this people, because they're so vile, wicked. They're completely turned over to their sin. And, they're really living in their egotistical invincibility right now. And they're about to really have a big surprise coming to them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be horrific and beautiful. Because exactly. when God punishes his people, he delivers his people. And so there's going to be a huge testimony of more people coming out and a huge punishment, which is also going to be great and a blessing, because a just God is going to send justice to those who the beast system will not provide justice to or against.
Right.
And so it's going to create a doorway where the people who didn't know a way out, it's going to scare the daylights out of them when they see what happens to these guys, because they're going to be like, I don't want that to happen to me. And then they're going to be on their knees, and they're going to be done, and they're going to come out, and they're going to provide witness and testimony. And then we're just going to see that division of the wheat and the tares continue to divide and open up and have that greater gap, and all of the prophecies just continue to play out. But I fully believe that that's the season that we're in, and I believe it's on the cusp.
I think we're at the doorstep. It could open any day, literally,
Exactly. We could get done with this record. It could be in 5 minutes. It could be in 5 days. It could be in 5 weeks.
5 months.
I would be surprised if it was in 5 months.
Yeah. I don't think it'll go that
5
long.
years.
Yeah. I don't think we'll make it 5 months.
I think it's weeks away. It could be months away, but I think we're going to see a major consequence coming down on the unrepentant very soon.
That's 100% what I feel. Well, man, this has been amazing. So just appreciate your time here.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna have to do this again, because there's just so much there. I think, like you said, we both feel like there's a reason we're doing it. You have different talents. If I'm just the guy that brings the information through other people, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm learning and wanting to find out more as well. And I'm on my own journey with, my relationship with God. And like I said, I couldn't do this and talk about the things we're talking about. And, if I didn't feel I was covered, and I know I am.
Yeah.
But anyway, just appreciate your time and let's stay in touch.
I appreciate you doing what you're doing, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
You bet. And I'll have all your information in the show notes for any of those that want to jump over. Please follow Teresa's channel, and it's Kadosh Life, KADOSHLIFE, and I'll have her email as well if you want to reach out to her. So
I'm on Rumble and YouTube. So, yep.
Perfect.
All right,
folks. Well, thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you. You too.